Tinubu's administration is on the hunt for 50% of profits that Nigerian banks made last year from foreign currency revaluation. The government has asked the Senate to approve the finance tax amendment that will compel all banks to cough out the one-off 50% windfall tax no later than December 2024. Any banks that fail to cooperate with both the FRS and the central bank on this face further monetary fines, and the bank executives could go to jail for as long as 3 years. Let's get some perspectives into this unprecedented move in Nigeria's banking history. As we bring on Mukhtar Mohammed, a public policy analyst and the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. Thank you for coming in tonight. At a very short notice, thank you. We appreciate it. This is, as you can say, fire on the mountain and the man of security. What do you make of this plan?
Dracula. You look at the law, is more or less like we're in a military regime telling you have to do this or you go to jail in 3 months. I mean, it's
you go to jail for 3 years.
For 3 years. It's one of those laws that you begin to ask yourself, what's the rationale behind it? Because if you look at that gain, those gains actually came out from FX,
yes.
FX, and the same CBN told the banks then that don't use this gain to pay your shareholders anything. Don't use it for your operation because it's a systematic risk. You cannot tie it to anything, and there could be a sharp drop in the exchange rate, and that could cause a system issue. And all of a sudden, you want to read from what you didn't sow there.
You know, the government, well, in the manner of speaking, the government liberalized the exchange rate market last year.
So was that the whole idea why they liberalized the exchange rate so that the bank could get no traffic?
I'm asking you because again, the government says, look, we're refloating the naira, and that wasn't the banks. It is the government that said
it's
so.
a government policy,
Yes.
but they are just looking at taking it at the bank. If you are taking 50% of that revenue and you are putting it back to those sectors that really lost hugely, and most of the multinationals are leaving Nigeria,
Okay,
then it makes sense.
Okay.
But you're not taking it. So all the while, I mean, you really had a plan for it. You said the investors that are supposed to reap those harvests should not touch it. The bank should not use it for the operation.
Recapitalization.
They shouldn't use it for recapitalization, but you are ready to use it for 50%.
And I said this is unprecedented because in my entire career, I haven't seen when
I think
the government...
No,
globally, I'm not too sure.
Globally, you see, they will come out and tell it maybe happened in Haiti.
Banks make money everywhere in the world due to whatever
policy, and the bank lose money too also by policy.
Oh, by the way, okay.
So now, when you look at this current policy of this 50%
tax on FX profit.
On FX policy.
So which means if a particular bank and any of these big names make $100 million last year profit from the FX devaluation, Mr. President is asking them
to give them 50%.
Give me $50 million.
$50 million, not naira.
Yeah.
He wants dollar.
Yeah, because it's dollars.
Yes, it's dollars, so he wants it in dollars.
And they got to pay that up between now and December. So the window is really tight for them. They got to bring the money to the table.
It's shocking. You see, the same policy that the CBN came out and said, it has never happened globally, that you cannot use your retained earnings as your shareholder funds. What was the whole idea of keeping retained earnings? Now, that means you all had planned for it because those retained earnings was so part of what gave the banks high earning per shares. So now you're not going to choke it off again. So it's tough time for the banks.
So the banks are in the market right now looking to raise higher capital. So how will the 50% this FX tax profit hit the investors and market confidence? The shares of the biggest banks today, of course.
Of course,
you took a very big beating.
You said it.
Senate banks,
7%, and now they are coming for their offer or right issue. So what was the price before they come in? We saw the bank, even those that are doing offer now, and those that are having the right issue now, it's not getting attractive for investors any longer. Investors will prefer to buy in the floor, so that keeps the banks in a very tight situation. Now, when you look at the timing of this, you're telling the bank to recapitalize, they shouldn't touch it, but you are going to touch it. And then what was the attractiveness? Why people were really ready to buy this banking share was the earning per shares, because the earning per share was huge. You see some banks doing earning per share of 17 naira 40 kobo. And investors are saying, look, if we buy after maybe this like a bank like Access now, the share will go by 50% in terms of volume. And you're looking at that earning per share. If you divide that earning per share by 50%, investors is still saying, okay, we still have something to hold on to as what will come in as dividend payout. And they were looking at the long term. Most investors were looking at the long term. Now, if the short term prospect of this bank is not looking very dim, talk less of the long-term prospect.
I'm but in terms of this forced one time, the government says it's one time, so it's one time. If it goes through the National Assembly.
It has already gone through. You know the National Assembly.
Yeah, the Senate.
The Senate and Senate.
Yeah, it's gone through second
reading. Of the federal government.
So it's done. Now, how will that hit the bank's FX position? Because it looks like this money was made last year. I'm sure they must have been keeping it.
You see,
and then you're asking them to open the vault and give you the cash.
Yeah,
that's what
they are going to take it from
is asking.
Yes, that's what they're asking for. And then if you look at that, the larger your FX gain,
the more haircuts, the more haircuts you get.
And that's what you're seeing, because the largest FX gain was from Zenith Bank. So you see that numbers there, the market responded to it. 7.7% losses on Zenith Bank today. You saw that also GTCO. If not for the FX gain, GTCO wouldn't have been able to pay shareholders anything. So you see, and these are banks that are coming to convince investors. So it's not a good time for the banks at this moment, because again, when you look at that again, we don't know how many percentage of that FX help the bank earning per share. So we don't know how much percentage.
But of course, you're an analyst. We all know that investors between January this year, they've priced those FX gains into the stock market.
Even if they told them not to use it. Because it's like the
investors would have priced it in.
Yeah,
now, I lent you were doing $1 million. Now I lent you are doing $100 million. I would have valued that. I put that into my price.
It's the value that is making the recapitalization drives look exciting
to investors. You mean that's what you're seeing?
That's what you're seeing. You're seeing it, and you're saying, look, the value. And then again, it's going to stop the expansion drive that most of these banks actually kept this FX offshore for expansion ground.
I got it. For example, Access Bank has a lot of has a couple of acquisitions to do across Africa this year.
Now,
GTCO, UBA, and the rest of them.
GTCO is planning that their present offer, almost about some percentage of it is going towards investing in other African countries, trying to buy out branches. So you see some of these. So the expansion drive, the only thing that Nigerian economy pride themselves of is the banking sector, which have done so many expansion across Africa.
Well, perhaps we'll get that in the cement sector as well, with Boa Cement and Dangote.
Oh, those are two. Just two. You're looking at assets, you're looking at GTCO, you're looking at UBA, you're looking at even Fidelity Bank, you're looking at Zenith Bank, and you're looking at the huge profit this bank bring into the country also.
The government right now, and we should all agree that the Tinubu's administration is, I'm being very careful, I don't want to say broke, but it's somewhere close to that. Because it's looking for money.
Everywhere.
Left, right, and center.
Everywhere.
So we're borrowing from the World Bank. And we're taking money from Afrexim Bank, whether it's via NNPC or whatever. So we're trying to keep the boats
we're looking
sinking.
for money everywhere, even including, remember the tax that we're supposed to be paying as bank charges that was supposed to go to the Office of the National Security Advisor?
Oh, I got it. Okay, so that's the security, crypto security, whatever that was. But again, now what the government is saying, 50% of this, and I don't have a figure yet, but I'm going to get it. But look, whether this is going to be 100, 200, $500 million, whatever it is, in terms of what the 50% FX profit gains tax will translate to at the end of the day, and I'm sure you would like to know from the Central Bank and the FIRS how much really this will come to at the end of the day.
We can actually be able to go through the bank's earnings, send them the books, and we'll be able to come out.
Yeah, I don't have a figure in my head, but I'm sure.
I also don't have a figure.
But I'm sure there's a lot of, it's quite some cash on the table.
He drive the bank profit almost by 300%. Those FS gain.
Okay, so in the manner of speaking, we've been taken for a ride. In the manner of speaking, well, we didn't see it coming.
No one
told us it was going to come.
You know, the law has to go back to you remember it's a financial bill 2023.
Act, yes.
Now he's not sending it back, reenacting that act, which was signed in by President Buhari.
Well, just add a few more pages.
Just add a few more pages to get more money.
Yes, well, if you're strong for cash, you got to.
But that bill only just talking about raising money. getting money. It's not talking about giving the most thought about tax incentive for SMEs that we've been hearing all this far.
Well, hold on a second. Let's touch on very quickly, due to time constraint, about how this is going to be spent. Based on what is already on the street right now, what we know, the government is saying, well, it's going to be spent on healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and a few things locally. How does that hit you? What do you make of that?
That's always the story.
The spending objective.
That's always the story. That's always been the story. Infrastructure, healthcare, school. And then
Mr. President wants an expanded budget.
That has always been the story. Look at that budget. Look at it. It says 6.2 trillion.
Yes.
Now,
additional.
Out of that 6.2 trillion, 3-point-something trillion is going for recurrent expenditure. And half of it. 50%.
Another 50. Okay. Why are we running around 50%?
I mean, that's the new number.
That's the new number. 50%.
50% is going for recurrent expenditure. You and I know what.
Which is just pay salaries, wages,
and allowances, please.
And minimum wage just got approved.
So by 70,000. So man, he has it in mind. That's why he's selling that bid. He already had his mind that he want to pay 70,000. Remember the special advisor, the senior
Mr. President was an accountant, and he's still an accountant.
The senior special advisor to the president said something. I mean, this advisor to the vice president of economic matters said something. He said the Nigerian workers that were asking for so much wages do not constitute more than 9% of the working force of Nigeria. So 9% of the working force of Nigeria is going to be enjoying 50% of the waterfall. Does that add up? And now Mr. President is saying the Labour Congress, he said he will look for ways to see how this 70,000, it could mitigate the suffering of the informal sector or the private sector. We need to watch out for that. We need to wait for it. Maybe one of these 50% that we collect from the banks, it might be using it to shock some major companies that have suffered FX losses. That's the only way we're excited.
Well, the banks will say have 50%, by the way. So
what?
No, they'll say have 50%. It was a gain. It was a windfall.
No. Let me tell you.
It's a windfall.
I feel that for designing investor, it's better time. The bank will take the bidding, but Nigerian banks are resilient and innovative.
They're going to survive.
They're going to survive it big time. They're going to survive it. I mean, recapitalization of 500 billion, most of them have a recapitalization of 1-point-something trillion. So
banks everywhere in the world know how to make money. So sometimes I find it difficult to shed a tear for them. They seem to have been very clever. They know how to make money.
But with our own, because the banking sector seems to be the key driver of Nigerian economy.
And they're facing a whole lot.
They're facing a whole lot. And
electricity, cost of doing business and whatever.
And we are waiting for the CBN also. We'll be having the Monetary Policy Committee meeting.
That's next week.
Next week.
Keep your eyes on that. I'm keeping that in mind. Thank you very much. It's a Thursday evening. Thank you for coming at very short notice. Wish you all the best for sharing your thoughts with us, public policy analyst and CEO of Finance with Mokhtar Mohammed.